Fire extinguisher or fire blanket?
Extinguisher.
Blanket.
Ooh, okay.
If you're in the kitchen, extinguishers are a mess.
Fair.
What's up, College Station? I'm Grace Hollowell, and today we have a special episode with Stu the Fire Guy and Harley from the College Station Fire Department. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. We've had you on the show separately before, but we have you all together today because National Burn Awareness Week is coming up very soon. And the core of what y'all do, besides being emergency responders, is education to help in those emergency situations. So we're going to talk about Burn Awareness Week and what to do if you burn yourself or if somebody around you gets burned. But to start things off, for those who may not know, tell us about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm the community outreach specialist for the department. I would say my primary responsibility is like prevention and education. So that's kind of a big umbrella term, and I could talk about it probably for the next 5 minutes straight. But in short terms, that's my main goal with the fire department.
Yes.
And I'm a captain. I work in fire admin. I have several projects. One of them is public information. So I'm the public information officer for the fire department.
So anything the public needs to know, you're the guy.
Yep.
So what is your favorite thing about your jobs?
My favorite thing is getting to know the crew. Truly, I think I have a unique position of not coming from a fire or EMT background at all and coming into a role where I didn't know anybody in the city, and they all adopted me into their own little fire family. And I know if I could call upon any crew member right now that they would be willing to help. So I think getting to know your fire family and welcoming them with open arms is like the best part of my job.
Yes, absolutely.
I enjoy being a link between the fire department and the public to tell the story about what the fire department is doing and why what we're doing is important to this community.
Yes, absolutely, because we have a unique community with unique needs, especially when it comes to emergency services. And that kind of leads into our next question here, but how does what you do on a day-to-day impact our community?
A lot of what I do is like the educational side of it, right? So getting into those early ages and telling them, hey, we need to be aware of burn possibilities or not to do this and that, right? And exposing young ones to firefighter personnel so they're not scared of them if there was to be an emergency, so they don't run and hide and other things like that. The educational side is really important, not only for the young ones, but even for the older ones, and encouraging them to change their smoke detectors and stuff like that.
Yeah, and some of my earliest school memories are the firefighters coming in, showing us the fire engine and the fire hose and the gear, as well as telling us don't play with matches, don't play with fire, don't ever cook anything without your mom and dad. So yeah, that early education is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's honestly a great part too, and it's always so humbling to see their excitement in their first experience with the fire crew, right? And it's a very encouraging and positive way to outlook on my job. I think for the personnel that they have a unique experience of having to respond in people's most vulnerable moments, whereas I'm trying to prevent those moments from happening. So it's kind of I don't want to say an even balance, right? But I'm trying to do what I can with the effort of our crew is amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure you have stories, Stuart. You've been with the department for some time now, and what you do goes kind of similar to what Harley does, but a little more direct interaction with the public.
Right. And I got to listening to what Harley was saying, and I forgot what your question was.
How does what you do impact the community?
Right. Okay. So a lot of people don't think about the fire and emergency medical services until they have to call 911.
Right.
So what I do in public information is to keep the story out there in the media or on programs like this about what we're doing, because we do a lot, and a lot of that is kind of behind the scenes or at the station in preparation. We do a lot of training so that when someone does call 911 and we get there, we know exactly what to do to help them.
Yes, absolutely. We were talking a little bit before. I had a funny story of not necessarily a fire emergency, but I didn't realize my husband was outside and left the TV on, and he was watching a scary movie. I was upstairs and I heard somebody talking and thought somebody was in my house. And my first instinct was probably not the best course of action if I was in that situation. So having reminders like on programs like What's Up or going into the the schools or on social media or in the news can be very helpful. And hopefully next time I have a little better response than running at them with my cat.
Hey, practice makes perfect. So I feel like the more you get into the habit of, hey, what if this happens, and you practice it, then your muscle memory kicks in and you're ready to go.
Yes,
So,
exactly. So what is the biggest thing that you have learned from your time in your position?
be open-minded and ready to adjust
Yes.
to whatever is needed, right? So I could have stuff on the schedule, but if there's a call that comes in, if there's additional training or other requirements that takes priority, we have to be willing to adjust it, even a moment's notice. So just flexibility, honestly.
Yes.
And willingness to learn.
And I'm sure no 2 days are the same for you. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Is that no two calls, no two emergencies are exactly the same. You might go to 2 heart attacks in one day, but the patient is going to be different, and
Yeah.
the situation is going to be different. There might be a different age, a different health, other health complications that are presenting besides that heart attack, and so you just have to be flexible. You have to be prepared for anything. When you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen it all. There's always something else that's going to surprise you, and so you have to be adaptable.
Yes.
And ready to go with the flow sometimes, and be creative, and
Yes.
be a problem solver.
Yes, and another thing too that I've noticed is no matter what the call is, if it's a cat up a tree or if somebody's house is in flames, y'all react with the same care and the same level of urgency, no matter the call. So, what is something that most people don't know about fire safety or education, and why it's important?
It looks different for everybody, to be
Yeah.
honest. I would say is probably the most obvious answer.
I would say I don't do nearly as much stopping, dropping, and rolling as I was told I was going to
Right.
do when
Yeah.
I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I was told that fire safety is all about stopping, dropping, and rolling, and that's because catching yourself on fire is one of the worst things that can happen.
Right.
When your clothes are on fire, it's bad.
Right.
But that is not the most frequent thing that happens. And we're talking about burn prevention for Burn Awareness Week.
Yeah.
So what the most common thing that happens is those smaller burns.
Right.
They're very frequent, where you're burning your fingertips or
Yeah,
burning right.
Making sourdough.
Oh
Right,
no!
you're reaching into the oven and you burn your forearm, or you burn your
Yep.
fingertips, or you pick up something that you forgot was hot in the kitchen, or you have hot water in the
Yep.
house that's super hot.
I was a
So-
barista. I had
Right.
done that before.
So it's not those very rare, very traumatic burns that we need to know how to respond to those, which is stop, drop, and roll. But it's the more frequent things that we need to talk about also and be prepared for, because those are going to happen in every family, and those are going
Right.
to happen to everybody. So,
Yes, absolutely. But I feel like when we were little, I anticipated stopping, dropping, and rolling a lot more than I don't think I've ever had to, thankfully. But yeah, you're right. That is one of the things that sticks out in everybody's mind. As far as National Burn Awareness Week, what is the theme for this year? Because I know they change themes every year.
I think it was, from what I read, was about being aware of preventable burns in the workplace,
Yes.
and then following it through with carrying that over the education into your home. A lot of burns happen within your home or within close range of your residence, particularly during high volume times where fireworks might be involved.
Yeah.
But also going into the workplace, because you're not really thinking about that unless you're working with welding or heating equipment, right? But there's still possibilities of burn scenarios everywhere, truly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have a Keurig here, we have candle warmers, we have mug warmers,
Yes.
things like that people might not necessarily think of when they first think, oh, I'm going to burn myself. So why is it so important to recognize this week every year?
It honors those who have experienced burns and highlights what they have particularly suffered through, and trying to educate and prevent harm for other people. I think highlighting it through a week, not just a single day, and there's even other times throughout the year that you could highlight, hey, this is what we need to bring attention to, focus
Yeah.
on it, and really educate everybody else on how to prevent these things from happening. So if it were to happen, you know how to react, for one, and to not let it happen to other people as well.
Yes, learning from those mistakes. So many people think of burns as these rare accidents, like you said, but how common are burn injuries, especially in the United States? Whether that's at home or at
The
work.
statistic I saw is about 400,000 burns a year.
Wow.
Now those are going to be burns that are bad enough to get reported.
Yes.
Burns where you're going to the hospital and the hospital reports on that burns. But when I burn myself in the kitchen, I'm not reporting it to anybody.
Right.
I mean, maybe I'm reporting it to my family by screaming a little bit, and they come out, what happened? You know, well, I'm not reporting that to, and I'm not going to seek medical attention because I burned my fingertips, or because I burned my forearm reaching into the oven. So many more burns are happening than get reported, but
Yeah.
about 400,000 burns happen every year that are bad enough to get reported, which means bad enough to go seek medical attention.
Yes, absolutely. So, what are some of the things that people can do when they're at home to prevent them from burning themselves? Like you said, if they're in the kitchen or if they're having a bonfire in the backyard, or if they have a fire in their fire pit in the backyard. What are some of those things that they can do to prevent burning themselves?
I would say keeping like the fuel source away from the heat source,
Yes.
essentially. So some people, especially back east where I'm from, like to set their wood piles on fire with maybe gasoline, which I'm not condoning.
Yes, do not
right?
do that.
Please don't.
Everybody knows you don't use gasoline, you use diesel.
Oh,
Look,
oh.
there's some unique people.
Yeah.
Or they might have just store it nearby and truly
Right.
keeping a proper distance. Like for kids, keeping them out of the kitchen, particularly at minimum 3 feet away. Same with heating appliances like a space heater, right?
Yeah.
Keep materials that are flammable or easily burnable, right? At least 3 feet away from it. And then another lesson that we were teaching in schools this year were in the kitchen, you know, not just the 3 feet area, but also to turn the handles inward, right? So nobody can
Yeah.
as easily reach up and grab it and it's hump over.
I've run on the same call
Yeah.
where a young child reached up and hit the handle of a pot of boiling water at lunchtime making macaroni and cheese. The hot water went all over her. She was in so much pain she was passing out, and it was just a terrible accident. But knowing what to do when something or a more minor, a less serious burn happens, is you need to have a plan. Okay,
Yes.
so when a burn happens in the kitchen or at the fireplace, or even just a candle or a match burns too low close to your fingers, what do you do immediately? The first thing you have to plan to do is stop the burning process, because when hot water is on your skin or flame, it goes against your skin, and you stop the flame or remove the water, your skin and your skin is still burning.
Yeah.
So you've got to stop that burning process. The best way to do that is to use cool water.
Yes, not cold.
Yeah.
Right?
Not
Cool. I
cold,
would
not
make-
ice cold,
yeah,
cool.
Yes, go for cool water under the tap. Luckily, you're in a kitchen, so the water's right there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go get ice cubes out of the freezer. Just cold water out of the tap on your skin is going to slow and stop that burning process immediately. And then you've stopped the damage process.
Right.
Then you can start working on getting help.
And a lot of people don't realize it's not just a quick run it under until it feels good. It's an average of 10 to 20 minutes of running that
Wow.
cool water. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's a fact that I learned today. And we mentioned kids. The same rules apply for pets as well. I know I've been burned by my dog trying to get the Thanksgiving turkey as I was pulling it out. I have a nice little scar on my arm there. So what is the best way, once you do get it under control with that cool water, what are the next steps? What does somebody need to do if they realize, oh, this is more than something that I can handle at home?
From what I've seen, if it's bigger than the size of your palm, you need to just go seek medical help. That's a pretty significant surface area, as well as watching for signs of infection.
Yes.
And once you start seeing those, immediately go. I don't think it would be worth the wait and risking what potential infections could occur beyond
Right.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're gonna see blistering start to develop. Like just if you've ever had a really bad sunburn, that kind of blistering
Yeah.
will happen very quickly with a severe burn. Blistering is an indication that you need to go get some medical help, because that blistering will lead to infection if you don't treat it properly.
Yes.
If it's a minor burn, a more minor burn, usually when I burn my fingertips on something, I develop a blister. Well, I'm not too concerned about that. I'll run it under cold water. I will put aloe on it or some kind of other burn product that I have, usually just aloe. I always keep an aloe plant around, and then cover it up and treat it. And that blister is going to pop, and that's when you don't want the infection to set in. But Harley's right. An area bigger than your palm or bigger than your hand is something big enough to go get medical care.
Yes.
Not only that, if it involves like an infant or an elderly patient as well.
Right, absolutely. Better be safe than sorry. So when people hear workplace burns, they might typically think of industrial jobs or factory jobs, like you said, a welder or something like that. But where can these burn risks in the workplace actually occur?
I feel like a pretty infamous one within the last year was like an electrical shock, right? So you can get burned by electrical components to the point where I think we had to have somebody administer CPR. So if that were to happen, right, one, you need to make sure the heat source or whatever is away from them, and then you can perform, if needed, like life-saving capabilities, right? But yeah, I would say electrical is probably the most common in a workplace, other than the obvious sparks, no matter where they're coming from, whether it's a welder or is somewhere in a shop somewhere. But
I'm thinking of kitchens too, outside of your home, outside of just being in your home kitchen, being if you work in a kitchen as a chef or a server. There's kitchens in churches. There's kitchens all over the place where someone was making toast up at work earlier today, and that's where you can burn yourself on a toaster. It's simple to do.
Yeah,
so you can burn yourself. You can burn yourself pulling your breakfast out of the microwave.
Yeah,
like steam,
that was me
right?
again. 2 times in one day.
But you're just placing it in the workplace, which is important. An important thing to remember is we have first aid kits at home. You know where your first aid kit is at your workplace also.
Yes, and for people who work in an office setting, I know here at City Hall we have 8 people in our office, and I know the City Hall as a whole does fire drills regularly. And I think another good way is to meet with your individual office and kind of go over a fire safety plan, right, or a burn safety plan to learn where the first aid kit is. What do we do if there is a fire? What do we do if our computer screen is on fire? I heard back in the day there were some drips and leaks in the old City Hall, and sometimes people's computers would end up with a little bit of water on them. So that is definitely a fire risk, right? So how important is it for those who may not be in an office setting, but will be in that industrial setting, to wear their PPE while they're working?
I would say pretty significant. If it's recommended that you wear personal protective equipment, then you should be wearing it at all times. I think another hazard that people start to get into is they get into the habit of, oh, well, I'm okay today.
Yeah.
I don't need to wear, and then they get into the habit of, oh, I'm not wearing a glove today, or I can test those boundaries, right? But truly taking all the safety precautions that you can to prevent the possibility.
Yes, absolutely. So why is regular equipment inspection such a critical part of burn prevention as well?
Or the reliability of it.
Yeah.
As firefighters, we inspect our gear at least every month. And that's if we're not using it. If we use it, let's say we go to a structure fire, we come back to the station, clean it, and inspect it after every major use. And so if any industry that you work in or using safety gear, you need to keep it inspected, because if a wear spot or a hole develops in your gloves, well, then they're going to fail, and something is going to get to your hand because there's a hole there now. You need to be aware of that. And to reiterate what Harley says is, you get complacent, and I thought I would be okay is not a good safety plan.
Right.
And keeping your safety gear with you, but if it's behind the seat of your truck and not on you, you're not protected.
Correct. Like, I've never had a problem yet, so, but of course, the one day you say that is the day that you need it. So what should workplaces consider when storing their flammable materials?
I mean, do what the manufacturer says, right? Every item is truly different. Some are going to say, keep this so many feet away from, this object versus that object. I would say look what you're utilizing and what that specific manufacturer recommends and how to store it. and
Yeah.
truly take it seriously. Some say, hey, don't let it stay in a room above a particular temperature. Don't put it in such a confined space. Follow those rules. And I think there's such a big variable between everything. It's truly just as simple as saying, hey, read the manufacturer's instructions.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm thinking about new employees who may not be familiar with some of these rules that workplaces probably have.
Yes.
And people who've been there for a while probably know. So if you're new, ask.
Right.
Hey, how do we keep this place safe? What do we do with these things when they're hot? What around here gets hot? What around here is dangerous that could burn me? Or if you've been at a job for a long time and you have a new person join the team, coach them through that. Take them through, hey, these things get hot and this is how we deal with it. There's a potential for an explosion in this area. This is how
Yeah.
we prevent that. Make sure everybody is just aware of the dangers, and then make sure everyone knows what the plan is in case something bad happens.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned reading those labels, which is important for another type of burn, chemical burns. If you're at work or you're at home and there's a mess and you start to mix a bunch of things together, that is also very dangerous. And that can cause a burn on your skin as well. So where can listeners or viewers, if they have questions or want to learn more about burn prevention tips, where can they go to find out more?
I honestly feel like NFPA.org is probably my biggest resource for educational purposes, whether it regarding burns or any other fire-related protective education source. And you can even adjust that to, like, if you're going to YouTube, you can go to NFPA Kids. That way it's more directed towards how they
Yeah.
can receive the information. That would be my advice. Stuart might have.
No, online resources are easy to find, and you can tell that they're from reputable sources. And you can download infographics that are it's information that's easy to digest. So it's easy for you to understand. It's
Yeah.
easy for you to teach to your kids or to your family. And so there's a lot of online resources. It's not that Stuart and Harley, because we work for the fire department and we have these roles where we're supposed to interact with the public. That doesn't mean that we have to recreate, the information all the time. We just go to what's already been created and
Right.
what's already been tested as a good communication avenue, and we share that. And so we go online and find those infographics, and we relay that information to people. And if you're in charge, if you're a parent, or if you're taking care of your elderly parents, or if you're a school teacher and you want resources, go online and find them, print them out, and share them with your charges.
Yes, absolutely. And finally, if listeners remember just one key takeaway from National Burn Awareness Week, what should it be?
Take it seriously. As simple as that is, take it seriously. Do the research, educate yourself, practice regularly. The muscle memory will kick in, so if something were to occur, you know how to react and go from there. And use your resources.
Yes.
Yeah, take it seriously. Have a plan.
Yes, have a plan. Before we go, we have a quick game of this or that. I'll ask Harley first and then Stuart, and you just say the first answer that pops into your head.
Okay.
Alrighty. Gas stove or electric stove?
Gas.
Yes.
Okay. Oven mitts or heat-resistant gloves?
Mitts.
What's the difference?
I guess heat-resistant gloves are a little more industrial-like.
I feel like
Oven mitts are
a
lit.
mitt would just be easier to put on. I got to worry about
Rather
putting my
than-
fingers and
You
everything.
lean like fingered gloves
Yes,
for
yes.
the oven?
Have you never
What am I
seen
gonna
those
go
of
put-
gloves?
No.
gloves,
I'm
okay.
gonna Pull the casserole out and then go play the piano a little bit.
Yeah.
I use oven mitts. I didn't know gloves were an option.
Yeah. Fire extinguisher or fire blanket?
Extinguisher.
Blanket.
Ooh, okay.
If you're in the kitchen, extinguishers
Yeah.
are a mess,
Fair.
right?
But extinguishers also have the potential to be reused. Blankets are a one-time only
Here,
thing.
look, let's be honest. Let's get real. First thing that popped in my head is put the lid on it. Turn
Yeah.
the heat off.
Yes.
Turn the gas off, because cooking on electric is less desirable. Turn the heat source off. Put the lid on it.
Gotcha.
All right. If that doesn't work, then you can
Blanket.
escalate to a blanket, if you have one,
Got it.
which I do.
Good answers. Okay, safety goggles or a face shield?
Both.
Both. At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do both.
I would say
Yeah.
goggles, maybe. I feel like they would be more secure to my head.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
point.
When I hear face shield, I just think of COVID that just slide on like glasses and it would just come off.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe.
I think of like the welder mask that's like completely
That's-
metal and all the way down.
Smart.
Yeah. And finally, prevention today or treatment later.
Prevention today.
Prevention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Always a pleasure. Where can people find out more about the College Station Fire Department?
You can follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook, as well as locate our additional information at cstx.gov/fire. So.
And that's what's up.